Well, let me welcome you back. And I hope you have enjoyed seeing the other episodes that I've been delivering. And my purpose here is, as I mentioned before a couple of different times, is to give back and offer you all some very interesting models that I know work. I created them over many, many years of my own work. And the tools that go with them, of which many of those tools I actually created myself, and others I borrowed from others, referenced their work, and then modified them to my needs. And so when you get to looking at some of these episodes, I'm going to recommend that you do the same thing. Take it into your brain, think about it for a while, and then reformulate what you're learning to see how it fits you as an individual leader, your organization, and the business environment you're in. So, what might work in the oil industry might not work as well, obviously, in financial services or healthcare, particularly today with all the challenges that are going on in our economy. So, this episode is episode 5. And I'm going to share the screen and we're going to go ahead and get started because this is an opportunity for you to see some things that, for me, it's been very, very helpful. And this is about taking our attention towards the issues of force field analysis and forces for and forces against. So I'm going to turn my attention. This is the model we'll be using and the issues. And in this episode, we'll be starting with how does this impact your vision? Or how does your vision impact what you are facing as an organization and you as an individual leader? In my past experiences, I've had CEOs of companies, one in particular, who we were talking about one time that he wanted to give the speech of we're on the bus or off the bus. And he said, can I do that? And I said, it's a private company, isn't it? And he said, yes. I said, you're the CEO and founder. Yes, do it. And it worked. So again, this is for you to take into and to ponder and then use these tools to the best of your ability in your own situation. And the idea here is that we want to leverage the opportunities that we have to move the vision forward, but mitigate against the forces that are causing issues or obstacles. So as a consequence of that, we'll move on to the next slide and begin this process. Let's consider where we are. In episode 4, it was about creating and reestablishing our vision and how to take that vision as a message point every time you stepped out of your office and you were on stage. The second point was that we want to put the vision and current reality out there on a board so we start thinking about that dynamic tension. And you guys have already probably done that a number of times, and you know what I'm talking about. That tension's there. And quite frankly, it's pretty easy to identify what those are. It's the level of impact that we really want to get to. So we talk about the pluses and minuses of both external and environmental forces, as well as those inside the organization. Remember, I think I mentioned that every organization has unspeakables, and those unspeakables are things that we just have a hard time talking about. The bad news is that if those unspeakables become unspeakable, they can become pathological. So these kinds of exercises, and I will emphasize over and over again, you as a leader, you show great leadership when you can get your team to get out of their comfort zones, to speak well, to speak often, and have a productive dialogue. So that's, again, keep that in the back of your mind as we're going through. And we'll do the exercise both on the external forces as well as the internal forces. And then next, at the end, we'll talk about what episode 6 is going to be. So let's take a look first at how you do this. My recommendation is that if you have a group, put them at round tables like we've done in the past. Recommend, 4 to 6 people at a table, more if you can handle it, but don't push it. And the idea is to have active involvement by everybody there and figure about 90 minutes of work and about 30 minutes of actually doing a debriefing and reports. And the whole idea is to have these flip charts in such a way that it has the vision statement, and then you're going to list and put on pieces of paper and post them on the boards, those external aids that help in reaching the vision and those barriers. And the whole idea is that you have the individuals working individually and separate charts for each group. So they write down their individual ideas and then they put them up on the chart as it is. And the idea is for the leader, it's your opportunity to sort of begin walking around, not talking, walking around and watching what you're seeing and try to begin digesting what are they saying. And the whole idea is step 7 through 9 describe is you want them to come to finish with their brainstorming, if you will, of all these various ideas, and then have each group, those subgroups, to present in a brief format what are the primary first 3 to 5 priorities in each side of the flip chart there. And you as a leader can then begin understanding about what their contributions mean. And you can also then describe your impressions of what you're seeing and try to come to consensus on what the key ones are so that people understand. Now, here's the deal. Do the same exercise with vision statement, only this time think about the internal strengths and the internal weaknesses or challenges that your organization has, and have the group do the same process. Think about it, post-it notes or whatever they want to use to put them up on the flip charts. They have group discussions, and then they report out as subgroups, and you have a total group discussion after they're done to sort of tell you what they're thinking most of, and look for the patterns so you can connect the dots. I guarantee you there are going to be some surprises, number one, but number two, all of those forces you need to consider in your own mind as the leader of the organization, because they're going to be looking towards you for your insight, and that's really important. So keep that in mind, and the idea is to keep moving ahead. So I'm going to give you a case set example. This is out of healthcare, but I guarantee you the concept could work in every organization, regardless of the type of environment you're in. A number of years ago, I got involved through a vision of an organization and 13 demonstration projects called Community Partnerships for Older Adults. And the idea was that older adults, interestingly enough, and this is pretty well documented, have more difficult time navigating through our complex healthcare system because they just don't know it well. Sometimes they don't know the best place to look, may not have family close by. And so what we did is we developed a methodology by which that could happen pretty easily. And I worked with a professor out of Brandeis University. We had a great deal of enjoyment working together on that. And those 13 communities received nice sums of money and did some outstanding work in helping older adults navigate their own community health needs through their systems and the healthcare opportunities that they could see. So the idea is, from a vision of healthy community, you want to first identify by priority the disease entities that you might want to examine. I can tell you universally, and this is true in Europe and most of the world, heart cancer, stroke are the tops. I think I mentioned in one of my comments before that I've been very impressed with some colleagues of mine in Romania that are doing a very interesting work in trying to get early detection and treatment going faster and more effectively to better use the scarce resources they have. And my German colleague Tobias Gantner of the Health Futurists organization, who's using AI and being able to deliver healthcare, interestingly enough, in a very innovative fashion to the rural parts of Germany, where the pharmacy is the anchor point. The doctors are linked in, the patients are linked in through AI, and it works very, very well. So the idea is you want to get top priorities, keep those in mind. So in this case, it might be heart, cancer, stroke, or childhood immunizations. We're now seeing that could become a major issue in healthcare today in the United States. And at the end, you want to make sure that when you've gone through this, you have some good words that you can build on your elevator speech. And remember, it's not just what you can see, but what you can help others to see, staff members, key stakeholders, and other community leaders, healthcare providers, and patients you will serve. So the idea is when you come through the end of all of this, you have a good idea of the viability of the vision we have about community health. You have a good sense of the target for mitigation and correction on the barriers and the weaknesses, both inside and outside the organization, as well as the environment you're in. And that could be a whole number of different things. But the bottom line is you want to make sure that everyone sees the same thing. They believe and they understand they can achieve. And the point here is that you want alignment. You want everybody working in the same sense. And oh, by the way, it's also an opportunity as you're facilitating these kinds of exercises and these tools to stop and do a timeout every once in a while and say, I'm going to stop. Let's stop for a minute. Does anybody see something that we haven't hit? Have you heard something that bothers you? Do you hear something that you think, hey, we could really create a great win on that? You want to have a very productive dialogue. And the more you can do that, the more you can achieve that kind of information sharing that goes on, the better off the results are at the end. I saw that over and over again, particularly when I was working with the American Association of Medical Colleges that does accreditations. Worked with them for 3 years. We revised their vision, revised their working plans and their initiatives, and it produced wonderful results. And it was a great group to work with. And believe me, I was the outsider, and the only thing I had on them that they didn't have on me is I had my PhD, and they were all doctors as well, most of them physicians. So we were on more of an even keel, but it was a lot of fun, and we produced some very interesting results. And interestingly enough, sometimes when we were doing these things, one or two of them would say, hey, we hadn't thought about that. We got to factor that in. And that's true in every situation. The healthcare organizations I work with, Wachovia, and all of its branches and so forth, and the oil company. Very interesting. So the key deliverables and desired outcomes from a force field analysis is, do you see the vision differently? Do you see what I'll refer to as a new reality and open-mindedness, observation and feedback, values and expectations? Do you see it a little differently? Do you see how we can use that? And here's how we can bring it to fruition, bring it alive, and make it really work. And then the second one is to create a new meaning and knowledge. All too often, when we're in organizations, we're looking out on the horizon and we're not watching the steps we're taking. And that's an important piece. And that's one of those elements as a leader, again, it's your responsibility to stand up and say, okay, again, time out. Let's take a closer look at one of these elements that we see that we can leverage to our advantage and those that we have to work around. And in some cases, we'll get to a model in one of the 2 sessions coming up. There's some things we can control and there's some things we can't control. And if we try to control things we can't control, you get in trouble and you don't get anywhere. So the key is trying to understand the vision and understanding the obstacles. And the more you understand that, the more you can bring that to the attention of your team, the better off you are in the long run. And that brings us to the opportunity to take effective and impactful action. You have aligned thinking, planning, and stepwise action. You don't jump forward, you take steps. It's sort of like we want to do it a little bit at a time, and we're going to build on the strength that we create as we're doing this incremental approach. Because trying to convert an organization or a community or stakeholders or whomever in one foul swoop is almost impossible. So you have to be effective in that regard. And we want to make sure that this tool will provide you with tangible results. I guarantee it. And the next episode, we're going to take a look at a different way to do it. Okay. I've been doing the talking. I'm going to walk you through your take-home test. So I want you to grab your flip chart, put it in your office. You're off stage, remember. Write the vision, current realities, do a force field diagram, and fill in the blanks from your own perspective. Do that, I strongly recommend, before you get your whole group together. And what it does, it helps you to sort of think as you're doing it, how do I process it? How do I facilitate? How do I make sure I'm getting everybody involved? And this way you are doing it with yourself, and then you take it out to the rest of the organization. I guarantee you get much better results. And you want to finish with capturing and documenting what did you learn? What do you need to explore further as an individual leader? And then design and set a day and time for the next effort. And I guarantee you're going to find some very interesting outcomes. The dialogue's going to be productive. And this is an opportunity to reinforce, as I've mentioned before, the success of any organization and the success of any leader is highly dependent upon trust. The more trust you have, the more likely they're going to say, when I say we're going north, they're going to go north. Now, funny story, I was in Tallinn, Estonia, doing Project Hope's management teaching. And they used an exercise with the Air Force that had an exercise where plane goes down in the snow and all the crew survives. What do? Well, the Air Force short version is you pack up everything, you bring it together that can be burned, so forth and so on. You stay right there. Every one of the Estonian groups that we had, there were 60 people in the room. Every group that we had said the same thing. We pack stuff up and we take off. And I said, why would you do that? You're getting away from the plane. And this guy raised his hand and he says, hey, professor, you got to remember, we're Estonians. We're strong people. Okay, I got the message. So I never played that game again, I guarantee you. But it was a great learning experience. Okay, enough of the fun and games. I really appreciate your attention. And I hope this episode 5 gives you something to think about, something you can play with on your own time. And I really look forward to seeing you in episode 6, because episode 6 is going to be the same kind of challenges, but we're going to use a slightly different approach that might be more effective from a managerial perspective and a leadership role for you, because that'll be a compare and contrast for you. I want to thank you guys very, very much for your time. It really worked well for me. I hope you enjoyed it. And I want you to take a look out on the websites, LinkedIn and YouTube. I'm going to be posting some things, and I hope you enjoy what you're doing. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Take care.